How do you make Instagram reels that are actually good and helpful to people and hopefully get a lot of likes and shares and comments and saves and all of that stuff? That is what we're talking about today. My name is Kevin Espiritu. My business is called Epic Gardening. This is just my life and business channel. You really shouldn't listen to anything I say on this channel unless it makes sense to you and you value sort of my experience, because I really feel you shouldn't listen to people unless they've done what they're talking about to you. I think I'm pretty good at Instagram Reels, so you determine that for yourself and then decide if this advice makes sense. Okay, so the first thing to think about, really any content, but specifically Instagram, you want to make sure your topic selection is correct. So if we're thinking about topics, let's go to gardening, for example. You have basil, let's say pruning basil. Really popular herb, really popular topic for that herb, so that it's going to do well. The amount of total people in the audience that are interested in that is pretty high. Now, if I went to, how to freeze summer savory, then first of all, less people grow summer savory, and also less people want to know how to preserve and freeze it. It's just a smaller topic all around. So let's say you made the same exact quality of reel around that. One's just going to do worse than another. And when I say worse, I actually don't mean worse. You may have maxed out the potential reach of that topic. So you don't necessarily have to judge everything by the top line metrics that you get off of it. That being said, if you want things that are going to spread, you really do have to pick topics that are engaging to a lot of people, right? The next thing to think about, so you get your topic right. This is before you even start creating it. Next thing to think about is the format. So Instagram Reels is a 15 to 30 to 60 second format. I would suggest skewing towards the 15 to 30 second range. I typically will go 30 seconds because I'm trying to pack in a bit of a narrative structure, and I'll talk about that in a second. 15 doesn't seem long enough for me, but I've done it as well. So the shorter you can make it while still communicating the value, then the better off, I say, because attention spans are small. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is the first 10% of the video has to be engaging in some way. People are scrolling through their feed, and you need something that's going to stop them. Now, there's two ways to stop someone in a feed so that they actually engage with your content. The first one is the most important one, and it is have a history of putting out good content over time so that people, when they see your little logo, are like, oh, I wonder what Epic Gardening has put up today, or I wonder what your name has put up today. If you always put out good stuff, people will always stop and look at your stuff. Self-evident, right? So the second thing you can do is to use just human psychology, right? And so some sort of motion, some sort of action, some sort of question, so something like, you'll never believe what just happened in my garden. And then one thing I like to do to get very sort of nitty gritty with it, I film it all in the app, so in Instagram on my iPhone. And what I do is I kind of time my speech with my camera motions. And so I might say, if I was talking about that ginger right there, I'll say, it's gonna be hard to do because it's front facing, but you get the idea. I'll say like, it's about time to harvest my ginger. See how I did like a 1, 2, 3 motion there? That's really how I would suggest sort of moving the camera, because you're synchronizing the audio and the video, which I think is a really smart play. Sorry, there's a car alarm going on, and that's just what happens at this time of the day. So we're gonna keep on rolling through it. So syncing your motion with your speech is good. The next thing you wanna do is you need to think about the whole video in terms of the payoff, right? So you have the setup, you'll never believe what's going on with my ginger. And then you have the meat of the video, which sets up, hey, what is going on with the ginger? And then the payoff is, what are you gonna do about it? Or maybe it is the reveal of what is going on with the ginger. So I might say like, you'll never believe what's going on with my ginger. Last year I planted this ginger. I grew it, I cared for it over many, many years, weeks, months, whatever. And then this happened. And then you go into kind of the payoff. So you think of it as like a 3-story structure. You have like your setup, almost like telling a joke. You have your setup, you have the meat of it, and then you have the punchline, right? So you want people to get some value, both from a deeper level, they learn something, whatever your goal is with the content. For me, it's I want them to learn something and educate themselves on how to grow food. And then second, you actually want to give them the psychological sort of dopamine hit of watching the content. So hopefully you do both. If you're just going for the dopamine, in my opinion, you're building a brand that is probably not going to really be around there for the long term, because you're not doing something of deeper value. But nevertheless, it still works really well. And so you want to think about that. The next thing I would say is you want to use text to illustrate the points. So I'm going to say, title card. So let's go back to the ginger. You'll never believe what's going on with my ginger. I would probably have a little text that's there that said, you know, ginger problem, exclamation mark, screaming emoji, something like that. And then on each clip, I would have another bubble of text that's explaining what I'm saying, because a lot of people aren't watching with sound. So the more you can do to convey what's going on, the better. Even if they are watching with sound, sometimes you say something slightly different on the text, so you're adding even more value as they're listening to what you're saying. Maybe you say, you know, let's say one of my clips says, last year I planted this ginger. That's what I'm saying with my voice. And then maybe on the text, I would say August 7th, 2020, you know, to really contextualize when I planted. That's adding a little bit of extra value, okay? So text, adding the text. Now let's talk about the length of clips. In my opinion, you want to keep each clip under about 3 seconds or so. Keep the pace going. Don't make people wait for it. Now that's my style. A lot of people can have a really long take. There's a time for a long take. If there's a really big payoff at the end of that take that contextualizes the whole reel, I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, the other thing I'm going to add, you want to add, you need to know your base layer goal for the content. So for me, it's to inform and educate. Now, I have to get that done. But assuming I'm going to get that done, going back to the ginger, how to grow the ginger, assuming I'm getting that meat across, then I need to think about how to add in other layers that trigger other emotions for people. Maybe I want to make them laugh. Maybe I want to make them be surprised, because it's the emotions really that garner someone to engage with the content. You need them to feel something so that they share it with people or they get something out of it, right? In my world, a lot of the times that's humor, a lot of the times that's surprise or ridiculousness, something like that. Hyperbole, something like that, nicknames. So I do things like I nickname the plants. That's just what I do. I think it's funny to do that. I call myself the daddy of different plants. I think that's funny. Other people seem to think it's funny too, thankfully. Otherwise, things probably wouldn't be going so well for me. But I do that. I like to make little sound effects. I do that in my normal life anyways. I mean, part of it is like, you really want to be authentic to yourself. I do that stuff in my normal life, so I just add it to the content. But I'm adding a layer. So my education base layer, right? Now I've got my cinematography as my second layer. So I'm syncing that, I'm moving the camera, I'm keeping the cuts quick, I'm syncing my audio with my camera motions, that kind of stuff. So that's level 2. And then I've added now some nicknames and some sound effects, level 3. So adding a little more layers of sound in there. Now I'm adding in some jokes, perhaps, some phrases, some silly things. Level 4, adding a little bit of humor. Then I'm probably going to be adding a lot more information in the caption. So something like that. You almost think of it as you're building a little educational movie. I think of it like that. So you're playing the writer, the director, the videographer, the talent, the host. You're playing all those roles, but you're making something that's 30 seconds, so you don't have to really stress about it. So that's what I would say. Now, when it comes to the caption, first of all, I think hashtags pretty much don't matter anymore. I don't really think you have to worry about that. What I like to do is I treat the actual piece of content as sort of the top of the funnel. That's where the most people are going to engage. So give them as much as you can right there. Now, the people who are more interested are going to look at the caption. So what should you reward those people with? More intricate details, more in-depth, some behind the scenes, some extra info, something like that. So if we're talking ginger, I might put in the caption, I might put in all caps, growing ginger, dash, and then I'll put actually quite a bit of text. I'll put maybe 3-4 paragraphs. Last year I planted this ginger. I got it from the store. I soaked it in water until it started to root. Then I planted it 4 inches deep in a mixture of potting soil. As it started to go up, I eventually transplanted it. You see where I'm going? I'm getting all these details in. Those are the people that are really engaged. So if they've decided to read the caption, reward them with even more information, even more details to educate and inform them. That's how I approach it. What I like to do, a little tip here, is at the end of the video, I like to say, hey, there's more information in the caption. If you're into what I'm talking about here, check the caption out, because there's more than what I just gave you. I'm not repeating it, there's more. And that's what it's all about. More value is in the caption, not just it's all here but in text format. That's not adding extra value. Even at the bottom of the caption, I will then say, hey, have you had any weird issues growing your ginger? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to take a look at them. That's helping people engage, right? It's helping them say, hey, mine's kind of rotting, or mine's starting to yellow. And then I can see what are the problems people are still having with this plant that I might be able to make more content around or make a YouTube video around. And so that's how I sort of think about crafting and Instagram Reel. Now, there's a couple things I would say I wouldn't recommend doing, and I think, to me, first of all, it's not my style. Second of all, I think it's sort of a copycat type of thing. I would not really copy people's content. I would take inspiration from people's content. First of all, morally, you shouldn't copy people's content. I want to be very clear about that. It's something I've never done and never will do. But I do look at content, typically outside of the gardening world, cooking, finance, lifestyle. I'll look at those types of content. I'll say, oh, wow, that's pretty clever that they did it that way. Maybe I can add some element of that to my stuff, you know? And so I'll do something like that. Now, it has to be true to you and it has to make sense, but take inspiration and sort of morph it into your own universe or your own signature. The other thing I probably wouldn't do if I was you is I wouldn't really use typical sounds, like popular sounds, and then do like weird dances to them and put up just text only. To me, I see a lot of that in the gardening world. I really think it's kind of, I don't think it stands the test of time. I don't think people are going to connect and engage with you as a creator as much if you're doing that. They can't hear your voice. You're sort of dancing around, like, unless you're really good at dancing, I wouldn't make it like my thing, you know, unless that's what you love to do. I'm not here to judge. You do what you want to do. But if you're doing something everyone else is doing, you're probably not going to stand out and get that sort of growth that you might be wanting. So those are some off-the-cuff thoughts. I know it was a lot. I have a lot to say about creating content. I'm very passionate about it, obviously, and I have some pretty strong opinions on what you should and shouldn't be doing. So I'll leave it there. Drop something in the comments. If you're still watching and you like this content, please just tell someone that could benefit from it. Just say, hey, forward them the channel and just say, hey, check this guy out. So that's it. See you guys later. Peace out.